Good evening. Tonight we're going to do an analysis of Top Gun Maverick. So I'm going to share my screen. And I think you should all be able to see that now, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So I abbreviated the overall story part of the or I excised the overall story part of the IMDb piece because it was sort of including the main character stuff, and I just sort of pulled that out. So I have it as a top naval aviator leads Top Gun's elite graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice from those chosen to fly it. You know, I think that works. It's generic enough, but probably a little too generic to pick a domain from. And then I have like sort of the top 6 characters. Oh, we get feedback? Or am I feedbacking? Not sure where the feedback is coming from. So I've got Maverick, Rooster, Penny, Iceman, Admiral Simpson, and Hangman. And there's a lot of other, including Goose, but I think Rooster pretty much sort of represents Goose.
Well, Goose is his father, right? The one who died before.
Yeah.
That was Goose.
Yes.
Right. That was Maverick's partner.
Right.
Yes, the one that died on Maverick's watch. So let's identify the remaining 3 domains. So who's the main character in this movie?
Pete Mitchell.
Come on.
Pete Mitchell.
Maverick. Yeah,
Maverick.
we'll go Maverick. We'll just say that. Yeah.
Yeah, Pete Mitchell. But
We'll just stick with call names.
But remember, he even says, it's kind of like that the flying and stuff, that is him. It's not his job, that's who he is. So I think his call name is exactly the same thing. He really is Maverick. Maybe Pete Mitchell or Major Captain Mitchell in the objective story, but for him, he's basically Maverick. How about the influence character, the obstacle character? Oh, I gotta switch the language. Don't forget this every time. So the influence character or the obstacle character, or the potential obstacle characters or impact characters.
Rooster.
Okay.
Do you think it's a trade-off?
Right.
Why don't we just say, well, let's right at the moment, let's just say
Okay.
potential, so we'll figure that out.
Rooster.
Okay.
That's my pick, Rooster.
Anybody else, or is that? You can have, over the course of a story, you can certainly have someone step in and in a scene perform that role, but doesn't make them the influence character. They're sort of a stand-in for them.
Yeah. I don't think it's the love interest. I don't get any really thematic juice from that relationship. So what does Penny represent? Where does she fit in this? I think it's a good answer. The answer to it, I think, is good to
Retirement?
No. Which, I mean, apart from in the overall story, she really doesn't have a whole lot of function. I mean, she owns the bar, okay, but the relationship Maverick had or has had with Penny in the past is really, I think, is Maverick's through line. That's part of all that whole stuff that he has to deal with.
yeah, I mean, she's a little bit of a I don't know if she would call her a conscience character or a reason character.
Right, but that,
Um,
in the overall story, she definitely has a function there. There's no question of that, but it
Yeah.
seems to be, it's more than that. She sure has a lot more screen presence and basically one-on-one with Maverick. So question is, which would normally put her in that influence character possibility, but I think you're right. I don't think she's supposed to be the influence character.
Is she more of a sidekick?
No, no, definitely not, because she certainly isn't
Okay.
support. She's, first thing she sees when he gets there is that, and I mean, every time she talks to him, it's like,
That's right.
she's definitely not support.
Okay, got it, got it.
You got to go out the window. It's like, I'm
Mm.
not going to support the idea of us having a relationship here. So definitely not a sidekick, but she's
Right, slugging him and everything. I forgot about that.
yeah. So I think that she does have a role in the overall story clearly, and a significant one, but not, I think, not a subjective character in the sense that she's an influence character. So is everybody good with Rooster being the influence character?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so what is the nature of the relationship between the two?
Saying goodbye to dad.
Estranged to
Yeah.
close. Is kind of a strange father figure to actual father figure.
What?
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
They're both getting over the father's death still.
Like enemies to wingmen.
You mean in
Right.
terms of the nature of the type of growth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Maverick doesn't see it as enemies, certainly. There's conflict, and because they don't both see each other as enemies. There's, they certainly have a past together that has created this enmity between them now. But they also have this not quite familial tie, but it's a familial tie.
Mhm.
Well,
Objectively,
he obviously has been keeping eyes on this boy and controlling his life to make sure that he would excel, for him to keep him from advancing.
Well, remember that was because his mother basically said, "Don't let him be a pilot," on her deathbed, and he said, "Okay." So that's why he did what he did in the past in terms of, tanking his
Oh,
first.
I didn't get that. Okay.
Yeah, no, he had made a promise to Meg Ryan on her deathbed, essentially, that he would not let him become a flyboy,
Hmm.
the thing that killed her husband. And he was following through on that when he had control. And of course, as of a certain age, then basically he couldn't do much about it. But he tanked the first try, which as Rooster says, set him back 4 years. So that's that. There's certainly an enmity there, or bad feelings, bad blood. So but it's all it is sort of it's a Ursat's family ties. I mean.
and I mean, in the objective story, I mean, it is a mentor, kind of a mentor apprentice relationship. But that's, only one dimension of it.
Well, I mean,
So-
is that the dimension that's really most appropriate for the for this? I mean, maybe that's what this should be,
Mm-hmm.
because part of Rooster's backstory and bitterness from what happened to him, that's part of Rooster, but it's also part of it does come into the relationship. And certainly Maverick coming there, I mean, they introduce it right away that there's potential bad blood between them because of their past together. Jim, do you have any thoughts? You're kind of quiet. Or You're just muted. No.
No, no, yeah, I would say I thought there was like a father-son. I felt like there was supposed to be a father-son thing and there was supposed to be a mentorship thing, but I didn't feel like it really did anything until they were both in the snow, and then all of a sudden it picked up, and I thought, oh, this is what I wanted the whole film
Right.
was more of the camaraderie.
Right. If you cut out all the action, then there's not a whole lot of the rest.
Yeah.
You know, especially for being as long as it is. I mean, the action parts are great and beautifully done, but they literally put every other through line on hold. The only part that isn't is in the beginning when they're doing the training stuff, because you're getting all that conflict between Rooster and Maverick, and that all is very clear as a, you know, the establishing what's going on there and trying to move past that. But once that's sort of like been very clearly established, the next step that really happens is when he picks Rooster as his wingman. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, okay. You know, it was an overall story moment, but it was also definitely a relationship moment and an influence character moment, you know, because we really didn't see, I mean, Maverick there, his through line too, but he was sort of there as more objectively, but Rooster and in the relationship, they definitely sort of had this big ping. Okay, well, we just hit that beat for that act. This is like, like the whole beat for that entire act. You know, it's like, okay, distilled into this. Beep.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just put mentor, student, and father son. So I think
I liked what you said. You said Ursat's family ties or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
but they have all the lovely dynamics of a family problem. All righty, so now let's go to the story engine and start answering some questions. So this is either going to be a really fast one or a really slow one. At least that's what it seems like it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so main character resolve. Does Maverick change or remain steadfast, and how do we know?
Out of curiosity, I don't want to diverge too much, but is there any sequels where the main character changed in the original and then changed again in the sequel?
Well, remember, this is a sequel, but there's a 30-year difference. So he's considerably somewhat the same, but also quite a bit different.
No, I know that. I'm just wondering if,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a topic for another discussion. I think he stays steadfast.
Okay.
Um,
Give
he's,
some-
he doesn't follow the rules at the beginning, and he sure as heck doesn't follow them at the end.
But
you
is
know,
that,
to the point where he's willing to, you know.
but do you think that's his personal problem or just his sort of his approach?
I think it's his drive.
So then what does there's a scene that is basically a Maverick scene when he's talking to Iceman. Iceman says, let it go, or it's time to let it go. What does that mean? And he's definitely talking to Maverick about Maverick letting something go.
Right, letting go of I guess the burden he's carrying for Goose's death.
And I mean, I'm not saying it's a change or steadfast. I'm just saying that seemed to be a really key question or key point as to who Maverick's about and what he's dealing with. And it, because it was just time to let it go or whatever, time to move on, but I can't remember exactly the phrase. It could be any number of things that are in Maverick's through line. But
Right.
the question then really is, does Maverick let it go? And he may not, or he may, but I want to know how you see that question dealt with.
Well,
Hmm.
I my take on this is I feel like Rooster is the changed character. It's intended to be the changed character. Because Rooster's definitely in a different emotional state at the end, particularly in relationship to Maverick, than he was at the beginning. I don't feel that Maverick is in a different emotional state at the end. I don't feel that his approach to the world, I don't feel that his worldview has changed. He's still, he's still back at his little domicile, with his old-fashioned plane. And the first time we see him in the movie, he's actually I actually read a little bit of the script before I saw the movie and saw that they cut out a lot of stuff, which is good, because the stuff wasn't really very, the stuff that they cut out wasn't very telling. What they do is they show Maverick basically having breakfast, right, in his, hangar place where he lives, and he's surrounded by his things, and at the end, he's in his hangar. In fact, he's got Rooster next to him, and they're looking at that, World War II plane, together.
Right. I mean, that's exactly where it ends up. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so you totally see Rooster's the one who's let it go. I mean, he's really, I really feel like emotionally he's got the change arc, and I just don't feel any kind of change arc with Maverick, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just want to make sure we addressed it.
I would attribute all that stuff like Goose and everything and Rooster. That all feels like relationship, and Iceman and he is relationship oriented to me, because it's really the heart of what's happening rather than
Well, when
personal. Like, he's got no. I mean, if he has a personal problem letting go of Goose's death, I don't see how that changes anything in the story for him.
Okay, well, you don't need to make a negative argument. I mean,
No, I know. I'm just trying to.
there was that one conversation when Maverick said, "What were you thinking?" And then Rooster said, "You told me not to think."
Right, which is basically showing that he's adopted Maverick's position, not vice-
Right. So he changed, right?
Yes, that's exactly
Yes,
correct.
and now he has to remind Maverick, what Maverick told him, but that doesn't, that still doesn't represent a change arc on Maverick's part. That just
No,
Right.
no, that
Right.
doesn't. No, it
That-
represents the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the pressure is on him to change. Like Ed Harris is like, your time has passed. You're an old relic. Time to give up. And he's like, not today.
Right.
Not
And
today.
that never changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If at the
Right.
end he's like, yeah, I'm old. I need to quit. Then that would probably be a changed resolve.
Yeah, okay. So I think not only do we see that he is a steadfast character, but also that pretty clearly that Rooster is a change character. That's good. Now, I want to just talk about this. I don't want to actually select it because I don't want it to lock down the domains. But if you were going to choose for the main character growth, would you say he's a stop character or a start character, and why? as a steadfast character.
Well, the let it go line, at least in terms of what the writers, and there were several, you know, intended, you know, the whole, you know, and to be honest, the let it go thing felt a little contrived to me, but still that would indicate that they're intending him to be a chip on the shoulder, you know, stop type character.
Right.
Right.
That was the big clue. Yeah, but and I just wanted to drop it in there. I'm not gonna say we select that, but that was, yeah, you picked up on it, on the thing that they're kind of going.
Well, he also gets himself into trouble all the time. Like he's his own worst enemy
Yes.
from the very, very beginning. So that's also a mark of a stop character.
Yep, there's no hesitation on his part. I mean, even, yeah, you know, he won't stop at 10. He keeps on going until the plane basically blows up.
Right.
God, that's even secondary. I was just thinking he took the plane. You
Well,
know?
that too.
Right. Yes.
But I mean, it's just sort of like at every step. Well, I think we go to the main character approach, doer or beer. That,
His whole argument is do, don't, you know, don't think, do.
well, and taking the plane is an excellent example.
Right. And going to 11.
He's not here right now. Let's do it.
Right.
Well, and in regards to the stop plus steadfast feel, Maverick really, he sort of is holding out for everyone else to stop doing, like he was hoping that the first general, I forget who came, like he was hoping that they could do the test, so he wanted that guy to stop, and then the I forget the other guys, but like wanted them to do the hard deck, and they were like, no. So he just wanted people to stop getting in his way the whole time. So he needed to stop, but he also kind of was like holding out for other people to stop at times too.
Yeah, well, even his love interest, you know, it's like the love interest, there was clearly no problem with them in terms of interest. It was, you know, she had problems because he was constantly leaving to doing things, you know,
And the daughter is there to say, don't break her heart. So stop doing that. Stop breaking her heart. You know, which I guess the ending would indicate that he did
well,
stop.
that again, she kind of adjusted to him as the world changed to fit him, not vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what a steadfast character really wants to have happen. So everything else, I mean, you know, you come to my way of looking. All right, so doer, that's a pretty easy one. Now, what about main character problem solving style, linear or holistic? And again, probably straightforward, but I'd like to see if we have any examples.
Linear.
Okay.
For example, he thought through the exact step A to Z of how to get to and the uranium site and get out in a very linear fashion. When they had crash landed, he followed step by step how to get them out, and then when things went wrong, he wasn't trying to like balance the situation. He was trying to progress forward to get back to where he needed to go. It was kind of cause and effect, and start at A and then get to C.
Right, and he certainly could predict when certain types of things were going to happen, you know, the cause effect. Also, I think what was interesting is that because he's such a linear thinker, and he recognizes that most of the other pilots were linear thinkers, not all of them, but they mostly were. So he played against that. So rather than playing on the same, you know, it's like not on the same plane, PLANE, but you know, the same level, he would come from above or below and coming at it from different strength, you know, to break he knew it would disrupt them, because they're thinking along things pretty much in a traditional sense, not thinking out of the box. So he was doing that sort of to teach them to be aware of their surroundings, and it's just not just front and back.
I think another one that stuck out to me was, in order to show them the mission can be done, he's gonna fly the mission.
Right, right. But I think the plan and all of the rules about what you can and can't do, that was definitely linear thinking. I think showing them the flight, that was his doer. That was him. It's like, okay, but if I can show it's done, then the arguments that they're making are going to be shown to be invalid.
Right.
And that's a cause effect there. Yeah. So
Right.
very
And-
linear.
And to make a negative argument, when he was talking about lowering the flight deck to 100 feet, it wasn't because I need them to be comfortable flying close to land. It was, the mission is going to be flown at 100 feet.
Right.
We should do that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
And when he accidentally runs up a huge tab at the bar, he comes back and says, here, here's the money, and I forgot how she reacted, but she says,
Not well.
well, she said, I forgot what she said. She says, forget the money, do this instead. I forgot exactly what it is, but he was trying to address, something just as personal as that. It's like, okay, you told me I owe you this. Here it is. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and by the way, too, he had no comfort in sort of being a pilot and a teacher, or being a pilot and retired, because he couldn't feel comfortable balancing his life that way.
Right. When it's basically he just wants to be a pilot. Yep. Okay, perfect. Oh, now let's move to the plot dynamics. And the story, is it driven by actions or decisions? And how do we know? Give some examples.
Well, I think it's driven by actions. I think the clearest first driver to me is actually like 16 minutes into the movie, when he is sent to Top Gun and he's got to make a decision. Am I going to do this? And then I think other ones later in the movie are things like they're shot down. That'd be at the end. Prior to that, he's chosen to be the team leader. Those feel like action drivers to me, pushing the story into sort of a new perspective.
Okay.
I'm trying to recall if there, in terms of the uranium enrichment plant, being run by some technologically advanced unnamed rogue state.
It happened to have old Russian planes or whatever.
But I'm trying, other than they came to be, aware that it exists. In terms of that story, in terms of bombing the target, there wasn't, I'm trying to think if there was any, inciting incident for that threat other than they found out about it.
And that happens before we know about it. What we know is that they've reassigned him to train the.
I mean, the choice of action makes sense because obviously, the conclusion, the resolution of the story is an action. Well, because they bombed the plant, but that's not where the story is over. The story is over when they when Maverick and Rooster get out alive and get back.
That's also an action.
Which is an action. So I'm trying to think of the other major points, but one of the you can definitely see certain decisions that are key drivers, like Maverick's decision to, I mean, their decision to send Maverick to Top Gun, Maverick's decision to use Rooster as his wingman. Right. So,
But you could argue that the decision to use Rooster there's a couple ways to look at that for me. One is that's totally a subjective storyline. It's not even in the objective storyline. But
well, I mean, it's part of the mission. I mean, he is as the leader, and also the
Yeah,
The
but
mission is
as
being-
a moment, it's really a subjective story moment because he also selected the other people too, and that was no consequence.
okay.
The
Yeah.
only reason it was consequential was because it was part of the subjective story.
But
And
that plane coming in at the very end and saving their lives, that was pure action.
Yes.
And we were showing no decision
I think
that he made. I mean,
Right.
how could it be anything other than action, after that scene?
also he does the trial run, which forces the decision to reinstate him,
Okay.
which is an action. Doing the trial, so completing the trial run.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what
I
I
can
was
buy
gonna.
that.
That's what I was gonna say, and then I thought the initial story driver was the action of the guy in command coming to shut down Tom Cruise's, I don't know, Mach 10 flight, and then the repercussion or the effect was then Tom Cruise's decision to fly it, which then destroyed the plane, and then he got sent to Top Gun. That's kind of how I saw it, as like the action, the initial action driver was the I don't know, the commander coming, and then that triggered the decision to fly the plane.
Right.
I have an argument against that if you want to hear it, but after you, Chris.
No, I think the problem is that the main places where there's a major decision, I mean, that whole beginning part, I think it was just to introduce us to Maverick, for those who weren't really familiar with him and his crazy behavior. Because the decision for him to become to send him over to Top Gun had already been made, right? And it was just sort of this fortuitous timing that he finds out after he has blown up this plane. I don't think there was a connection. There was no connection between the two, right? Because that's my understanding of it.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. That when in fact, when Ed Harris's character says this miraculous phone call came in at this miraculous time, it's kind of like saying, let's disconnect what we just saw. This miracle of you're not getting fired, that's the driver. Now the story is starting. Right.
I think that was basically a prologue, but that, it's sort of like, oh, we got a phone call. You've got to go someplace. We didn't see the decision. Clearly there was a decision made, but it was completely invisible to us. And that's the only reason I would say that wouldn't be a decision driver, that one moment, just because we have no deliberation, no decision at all. So it's kind of hard to say that. Whereas this thing happened, this call came in, now I've got to let you go to Top Gun, as opposed to firing your ass, kicking you out of the marshaling you and kicking you out of the Navy. So that would be why that might be an action. Anybody okay? Is everybody okay with action, or do we have anybody wants decision? Speak
No.
forever, hold your peace. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't need to
Yeah.
go on.
Like Prish said, the big moments, at least in the second half, are definitely action, and you can't get away from that. So,
All right. So, and of course, he is a doer in an action story, so he's very comfortable, and that pretty much runs in line with the way it feels.
Mhm.
It also, no, it doesn't. Never mind. Limit. does the story come to a climax due to running out of time in a time lock or running out of options with an option lock? And you have some examples.
Well, okay, that's an interesting question because initially I think they said, oh, they set up a time lock in that we have to get this mission done in 3 weeks because that's when we think they're gonna have the capability of enriching uranium. And then it turns out, oops, they're ahead of schedule. So we need to be ahead of schedule. So now they've pushed it up 2 weeks or whatever it was. So they kind of set a time lock and then they shifted it. But like I pointed out, the movie didn't end with bombing the plant.
Well, no, and it wasn't the time that was the limit. It was when it was going to be ready. See, that it was a condition of the base, not at a particular time, and that's why they could change the time, and it really didn't affect when it was going to be. You know what the climax point was going to be. It was always going to be. They had to do it before it was completed and ready. Ready to go into production. So that is definitely a condition, not a time limit. And I think the whole thing with changing the time, if nothing else, proves the point that it wasn't a time lock. It's sort of, I think that's how I would read it. And there were only a couple of options. I mean, they have to train them, then you have to be able to, you have to figure out how you can do it. Then you have to train the students to see if they can do it and weed out the ones that are capable from the ones that are not capable. And then you have to go on the mission and see if you can accomplish it. And then the last part of it, which was the part that Maverick added on, and as far as we're concerned as the audience, that's as important, which is everybody gets home. Remember, as far as the admiral was concerned, they were just really only worried about getting the job done. And if the people didn't get back, they didn't get back. It was just, it was too important. But Maverick sort of he established what that condition was, is that everybody needs to get back home. And particularly, not necessarily him, but all of his chicks need to get home safely.
Right. As soon as everybody got home safely, then the story's over.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
therein lies the option lock.
Yeah. So well, I think the option lock really was once everybody was there and you are able to blow it up, you got it into the line, then that's the options are done. You have to sort of, it's going to work or it's not. And I think that the everybody getting back home part is less about the goal. It's more of, I mean, I hate to say that, but I think it's less about the goal and more about the judgment. I think it's partly tied to the outcome in the judgment, sort of flavoring it, giving that extra, whether or not you have.
Only Cruz is concerned about it.
Huh?
Only Cruz is concerned about bringing everyone home.
Right. So I think that's in your costs. So, he didn't want to have that cost. He didn't want to pay that cost. So I think that's where it was the negative side of the goal. Yeah, they got the goal, but you don't want to have to pay these costs. So it was more of a personal goal or tied to what Maverick wanted. And of course, all of the flyers wanted that too, but not the admiral per se. Okay, so the outcome, success or failure, and why?
Success, they blow it up, they blow up the uranium enrichment plant before it's completed.
Yep, and everybody comes home safely.
Yeah.
Which is the extra added bonus.
Yeah, they blow up the Death Star.
Yep, and then the judgment, good or bad?
Good.
Good.
And we
Everyone
know
comes
that
home alive.
Not just that.
We know that because they're all celebrating, even though there's a raging fire going on still in the plane that they just put out, but they all rush out anyway just to celebrate.
But also the tension between the main and influence character is resolved. Right? So them working on the plane together really seals that deal. There is no lingering angst or whatnot, right? So it's a happy ending. Surprise!
Mhm.
All
I
right.
have another reason why I think this is a success movie that I'm going to share later when we pick the domains.
Well, I'm glad you said that because now we're going to pick the domains. So let's move that.
Great segue.
I mean the concerns, by the way, but yeah.
Well, that's okay. They're all part of the domains. So here we have our theme browser with the domains. And the idea now is to pick a domain that corresponds to each of the through lines with following a certain rule, but we don't need to worry about it. Dramatica will figure out which ones are right. And we know one thing we do know is that Maverick's going to be in either a situation or activity because he's a doer. So if we want to start with where we see him or where the overall story is, the implication would be if he's a doer and it's a stop story, then whichever one you pick, the other one's going to be the overall story. I mean, that's kind of that's why I don't force it to be picked, but it is, so if you think of them together, that, which combination of situation or activity matches the overall story and Maverick, which combination, that will pretty much tell you, what everything is. So anybody have any thoughts?
Well, seems like all problems in the overall story stem from this rogue nation acquiring nuclear capability, right?
Right. Gathering data, learning about where all the defensive systems are and understanding, where you need to be to avoid getting shot at by the fifth gen planes and obviously the doing.
Flying.
Right.
But there's lots of learning,
Lots of
Learning.
gathering
the whole
endings.
act of training.
Yep. Lots of learning. And you look at Maverick, I mean, obviously he's haunted by the past. That's a big one. The Ed Harris character and others keep saying you could be a 2-star admiral by now. What's your deal? Well, I'm where I need to be. And so that kind of speaks to the present, maybe speaks a little bit to progress or lack of progress, how things are changing or not, and of course, what is this future is
It's constantly being threatened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and determined for him by others, but which he doesn't, he doesn't want others to determine his future. So that is a source of conflict for him personally. So, I mean, yeah.
So we're saying
that seems pretty cut and
the
dry.
overall story is an activity and Maverick in situation.
And also, did we pick an IC before I showed up?
Yes, we said Rooster was the IC.
Okay, so Rooster is also, I think, clearly in fixed attitude for a couple of reasons. Like one, the whole thing about him changing, right, is he finally just does, as opposed to being stuck in his mind. But also he incites strong emotion in Maverick when he sees him, right? Like seeing him for the first time brought up memories, right?
Yeah.
When they're dogfighting, it's like, don't get sucked into this. He's all pissy about it.
Right.
And I think that all that puts Rooster into, that just shows how Rooster's fixed
Influencing him.
influencing him in the mindset domain.
That's an
Yeah,
excellent example.
and the whole, you know,
That's the example you were going to talk about?
No,
Oh, okay.
mine is a different reason why it's success.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
and yeah, and you know, the contemplation concern is, you know, speaks to that think don't do, you know, even though that's really just lip service. You don't really, it's not really illustrated very well, but it's given lip service that he I guess overthinks things. At
Well,
least that's
follow your feelings, and he's very impulsive.
Mhm, mhm.
Very super reactive.
Mhm.
So yeah, and
Obviously innermost desires his father, you know, I mean, you know, not only losing his father, but he's also very resentful about having been held back
right.
from the, you know, his own progress. So
And then we have the relationship would then be in psychology or manipulation, which, as I think, as Jim put it, is rather underdeveloped. I think to put it mildly.
yeah.
He's a pretty good influence character, but the relationship is, it's really interesting. I think the reason is probably underdeveloped is because they really wanted to make the love interest the relationship through a line, but there really just wasn't enough there. And the story was saying, no, it really needs to be him. You know, everything else in it is saying it's got to be Rooster, but I think they just were like, well, we have to have a love story.
I was wondering if she was going to end up being in like Dividends or something, or Benchmark.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
You know, because
I'd say, or yeah, that's true. Benchmark possibly for the main character, not the overall.
yeah, for the main character, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be true. So is everybody good with this arrangement?
Mhm.
No naysayers?
Good,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, so this is the, oh, no, that's not the overall story. That's the main character. And this.
No. Situation is the main
Oh,
character.
that's right, that is
Okay.
the overall story.
Mhm.
Overall story, thank you. Main character, see, as I said, all of them are selected now. Anyway, so we have all four. Now let's get to the concerns. And is this when you would like, Michael, would you like to say your little?
I don't have to jump in first, but I'm happy to. I think it is a doing. I think the OS domain or concern is doing.
Okay.
And I think that it's that because the setup in the beginning with the Ed Harris character is humans can't do this. We want drones. And then the going argument in the movie is it's the pilot, not the plane. So I think the reason it is successful is because yes, they destroy the plant, which I think is a mandatory part of it, but I also think they destroy the Gen 5 airplanes, even though they are technologically superior, because it's the pilot, not the plane, which is a doing thing.
Right, and it's a Top Gun thing.
Yeah. So it's all about doing pilot stuff as opposed to obtaining by destroying.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's a clear ripoff of Star Wars, which is a doing story.
You don't, I mean, even that the enemy, fighters look like Imperial TIE fighter pilots.
Never. Yeah.
With the helmets?
Yeah, with the black helmets. It's like, how Star Warsy are we going to get here? It's just that the canyon they have to fly through is curved instead of a straight tunnel.
Right. Well, okay, and they have to hit this little tiny hole,
right?
Not once, but twice.
Yeah, but you needed two ships to do it, not just one. That's a
Right. So
huge
that
difference.
makes it completely different from
Huge
Star
difference.
Wars. Yeah.
Here's the thing, at least they didn't have the cocky guy at the end coming out of nowhere to save him.
Well,
That made it a step too far.
No,
Step
they
too
didn't.
far.
yeah, I had a problem with that the first time I saw the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the
Yeah,
thing,
that's
I
right.
actually loved how they did it. And I sort of feel like if you're gonna reuse something, like do it this well.
Yes.
So I'm not complaining. I was just sort of like, oh wow.
You know, hey, listen, it made $1.5 billion internationally. It's the #1 domestic box office. So obviously something worked. So
We are talking about Maverick, right?
Maverick, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So, are there arguments for other concerns that anybody else has? I mean, that's a pretty strong one as far as I'm concerned, but I mean, especially since we were talking about how things are changing, could really be, no progress for Maverick, and Rooster being very impulsive, just very it's like very short fuse.
Yeah, I had a different thought, and I think part of it was with Rooster too. I thought Rooster was in denial, and I thought the objective story was really about self-interest. They all wanted to be the leader of the group, and then the country had to kind of act in our self-interest against this rogue state. And it was kind of about like, I mean, it wasn't necessarily about like possessing something, but I thought the main objective story was really about like achieving.
Right, because that obtaining could be not only having something, but also getting rid of something. So destroying that base is could be an obtaining.
Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it. And I thought, I thought it was kind of self-interest, kind of doing things based on what's best for yourself, and then also the country at whole. And then, that's kind of how I saw it.
Okay, and then, so how did you see, I guess, Maverick in the future?
Well, he didn't know what was going to happen to him. His future was in question. Like, he's like, this is what I've always done. This is only what I know how to be. What now? And so I kind of saw I saw him in like preconception. Like, he was unwilling to reevaluate the whole movie. And I thought that's why he was steadfast. I thought he was just like, he was just unwilling to reevaluate anything. So that's why I saw him there in the future, because there was no possible other future for him than being he then being, Top Gun. And
So sort of to piggyback on that, and also what Mike said is, if Maverick is Maverick, the pilot is his identity, like we were saying at the outset, and Ed Harris is saying it's drones, then there's no future. Then he has no identity after in the next few years. He's no longer, if all he is a pilot, then and there's going to be drones, then he's got no future.
All right, well, how does that affect?
Now, can I just throw something in? I agree with Teresa and Johnny. I think Mike's version sounds super cool. I wish that would have been the story. But and I didn't even make the star. I was like, oh yeah, that would have been really awesome if they did that. But I just think it's so anemic that the other one is like the closest version of it. This is my thought.
Yeah, well, no, of course.
Well, one thing I would argue and to support Mike's position is, okay, you look at the themes under doing and obtaining, and under obtaining, you definitely approach versus attitude. There's a certain amount of self-interest and morality. I think it's if it's there, it would be approach versus attitude, I think. But you look under doing and you see skill and experience, wisdom and enlightenment. And just in that quadrant, I feel like that's a stronger set, because it's like, well, the wisdom of changing the flight deck, and achieve, him going, taking the plane and going out to prove it can be done in 2.5 minutes is sort of a moment of enlightenment. But obviously skills and experience are kind of all over the place. So I mean, in that respect, I might, I didn't come in with any preconceptions, but in that respect, I do kind of like the doing quad a little better than obtaining.
You mean at the issue level?
Yes. And again, well, yeah, I mean, I can make an equal argument for doing or obtaining. All right.
Well, my guess is that it's probably going to be concern and benchmark. That's probably what we're gonna find it to end up being. So
Right.
one's going to be concern and one's
Yeah.
going to
I really don't like any of the variations for the overall story. I think maybe could we look at the element levels of some of these, because none of these are really coming through for me.
Okay, you mean, okay, so in the element level we're doing, that's this group. And then this is for obtaining. That's
Okay,
this.
yeah, that helps.
With Johnny, there's no theme.
Yeah, there's like no theme coming through to me. So there's
Well,
problems
okay.
and there's
All right. There's
goals, but there's not a lot of thematic.
there again, there's a attempt at theme. There is lip service to theme. All right.
I think it's theme is
That's-
subject matter more than like element, like,
Yeah.
core
I mean,
variation.
where I would see areas that you might find the material that's closest to it is when you have Admiral, the Admiral interacting with Maverick. Because that's
the Val Kilmer character.
no,
John Hamm
John
character.
Hamm.
Okay.
Yeah, that stuff seems like approach and attitude. Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of.
It to me it does more so because
Yeah,
it looks more like John Hamm's character is all about Admiral Simpson is all about, he's kind of like, you're using the wrong approach. That's the
Right.
wrong approach. That's not the official approach. So it's wrong. And, you need to, and you have a bad attitude. And so we're going to ding you for that, not because it works or doesn't work, but just because it's not policy type thing.
right.
And that's why I think that does to me work a lot better than either enlightenment or wisdom, or because you sure don't get any of that from Ham. And skill and experience you don't either, because he's an admiral. It's not like he was if they had made that character a subordinate kind of a character, someone who is just above a captain but was fairly new, then I could see easily having the story gravitate much more in the wisdom, skill, experience, enlightenment area, because you'd have someone who's in a higher position that is claiming to have more enlightenment or skill or whatnot, or chastising someone who clearly has far more experience than he does. But that's not this story. This, Ham and I mean, the people they have running it are experienced people. They just have a different kind of, it's like book learning versus practical experience.
Really logic, yeah.
I was add on to what you're saying, Chris. The first movie is doing, because it's about the school, right? And it's actually that does have the people that are in the higher rank, like you were saying, that
Right.
have the wisdom and the enlightenment, the skill and experience. This one's just about blowing something up. And the training stuff is just kind of like a way to get to the blowing the thing up.
Could we look at the IC
Yeah.
elements?
That would be
Because to
here.
me, he just seemed like he's always, buttoned up and.
He's a hothead.
No, I'm sorry. No. Oh, Goose or
Rooster?
Rooster.
Yeah, he's a hothead.
He has moments of it, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But as far as his flying and everything, yeah.
Well, and his flying, again, he's all sort of, doesn't really pay attention to his, the people around him. He gets his partners killed, in training. And then he has panic attacks. Right? He gets all and flying through the in the last pass, keeps on looking at the missiles and sort of starts getting really, really in his head and worried about the missiles and they show him, because I just watched this twice today. They show him constantly looking, he's going slow, he's going too slow, and they kept on looking up at the missiles as he's flying along and sweating. And
That feels like what logic, feeling, control, and control, maybe.
I'm not really certain. I wasn't really thinking. Might be. I was just thinking him. I think he's definitely seems to be more in sort of fear and anxiety and anger, which is more in the subconscious. But I bet impulsive responses is going to if the concern is innermost desires, impulsive responses, but almost assuredly is going to be
The bench.
part. And I can't imagine it not be.
Test. Yeah.
Again, I think it's kind of hard for him because we don't spend a lot of time on him. We see them mostly together, but we really, apart from being really hard-headed, don't really see.
Yeah, I'm just looking for what his change is from his perspective shift.
You mean to the main character domain?
No, for the IC, because he's the one that changes.
Right. Well, we don't know what element.
I know. I'm trying to find that.
Well,
It's clearly that he doesn't have any confidence. He doesn't trust himself. So he's got to learn to push the boundaries, which is what they've been asking him to do the whole time, which is in impulsive responses.
So it's the same as Luke. Oh no, Luke is the opposite of Luke.
I thought Rooster, I saw Rooster as a void to pursuit.
Well,
Like
when do you see him avoiding anything?
He has the skill set to fly the way he needs to fly, but he always holds back until the very end when he's got to pick up the pace and do it. And then finally he pursues by going after Tom Cruise's character to like save him.
And holding back sounds more like controlled.
Could be.
Than avoidance, but avoidance would be like he wouldn't want to go up in the plane, right? I mean, he clearly does.
I think it'll be a little easier to figure out your main character than it will be him. I mean, if we look over at our two domains here, the future and how things are going, concerns rather. We have
Maverick.
Let's do this. Let's try one of them and then we'll try the next one.
Proven, unproven.
That sound okay? Then we can, rather than trying to.
Yeah, it's better than to try to do both at once.
Right,
Yeah.
It's because we're constantly like going, ah. All right, so let us start with
Start with future, because everyone is thinking that.
so we will have
No.
him, main character, concern of the future, which is also obtaining
Everyone.
most desires and changing one's nature in the relationship. And if we could continue to go down, we have for the main character, at the thematic level, which again, there's not a whole lot of theme, but just look at it as them as containers for the elements inside them. Openness, delay, choice, and preconception. In openness, there's consider, reconsider, faith, and disbelief. In delay, we have pursue, avoid, support, oppose. In choice, logic, feeling, conscience, temptation. And in pre-consciousness, control, uncontrolled, help, and hinder. And so when we're looking at our main character, he is a steadfast character. So we're going to look and try to identify not his problem and solution, but what his symptom and response is, what he thinks his problem is, and his response to that apparent problem. And that will show us what the real source of his motivation is. Or if you know what his if you think you know what the source of his motivation is, that's fine too. Any candidates? Does this quad of consider, reconsider, faith, and disbelief, does that seem like it's, is that an in or out? Well, I have one vote for out. Well, okay. So
I would think it is the one.
remember, this is going to be the thing that's going the entire length of the story, not that they're all going to be in there. So so if you have remember, you have to take all four. You can't just pick one of them. So if you think that is the one, then legitimately
Well, he does have faith in himself through the whole thing.
I don't hear him talking about that at all, or seeing it.
Okay, okay.
Anything that had to do with faith or disbelief. I didn't hear any conversation from Maverick about that. Consider and reconsider, yeah, but I think that was over mostly in the relationship through line. Contemplation, thinking about it. Remember, I think there's a bunch of that, but it's not all the way through the story, but it's definitely a part of that.
If anything, a lot of these are there in the negative, where like he's not really open to reevaluating what he does for a living. He doesn't want to consider a new job.
Yeah, but you can't do both. Do you think both of those are existent in this story? As what he's dealing with, where he sees the source of his problems?
That's why I think it's preconception. I think Maverick's preconception, because he's just unwilling to reevaluate.
But it's also, there's a huge amount of preconception about him too.
Yeah, they're like, you're washed up, you need to retire. And then he goes and he does the course in an additional 15 seconds faster or something than the time he set.
So if that was the case, how do you see this quad of elements, control, uncontrolled, help, and hinder? What do you think is the problem and solution, or symptom and response? Any of those pairs?
So I'm not really too familiar with that specific terminology, but I guess the way I would see it is uncontrolled is free, right, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like he hinders everybody. He's like a hinderer and wants everything free. That's the way I don't know if that's what you're asking for or not.
Okay, so would he see then as control being the problem for him?
Yeah, I think he sees control as the problem.
That
That's
would
why he's like, the guys won't let him lower the hard deck, and he wants to lower the hard deck and that sort of thing. I think he sees control as the problem.
So in that regard, control would be the symptom, uncontrolled would be the response, because that'd be the thing that he's constantly working with. And behind that is what motivates him is when he's hindered, when people try to make things difficult for him. And you do see that a lot. I mean,
Well, actually, no, if you pick control as the symptom, I think help would be the problem.
yes, that's what I said.
Okay,
This is.
help would be the problem and hinder would be the land on
That's a
solution.
problem. Okay, that's, no, that's right. You're right. It's a dynamic, it's a
Right, horizontal. Mhm.
companion relationship, because that's the domains. So help being the problem. Well, I guess that's just a matter of him, he's motivated to help. I mean, what drives him is that when he's not allowed to help, or his help, trying to help.
Look, when he's the reason he wants to prove the Mach 10
is for
plane can
everybody
go
else.
Mach 10 is is to make sure everyone keeps their jobs, to make sure
Right.
the program stays in place and they're not replaced by drones.
Right,
So
and
he's doing it to help everybody else. But he's out of, but he went out of control. So
Right.
actually it sounds, the more I think about it, that quad does make sense.
Okay, so if we selected this, yes, go ahead.
And then I would just say I kind of liked where you're going, where he's driven by hinder because he's Maverick. And he's just the fly in the ointment for everybody. And
Well,
the
and he
fact,
even buzzed the ship at the end. He buzzed the tower at the end.
right, but and the problem is the uncontrolled, nobody knows what they're doing. And so I'm gonna take control and I'm gonna show how things are supposed to be done. So that would be the alternate version of that. So hinder would be his motivation, when people tell him he can't do something. And then
So
uncontrolled.
I'm gonna choose issue for the moment. So we have two different possible ways of going about it. We know problem solution is going to likely be either help and hinder, or, well, help and hinder is going to be problem and solution, which means that's going to be, okay, so that means for the main character, control and uncontrolled is going to be in the overall story, correct? The symptom and response?
Yeah.
So we would look where, so here's where your pursue and avoidance is in the overall story. And the question is pursuit the problem or is avoidance the problem? This is dealing with everybody, and self-interest, which again, I think if you look at the Flyboys, what's especially Hangman, he's like totally self-interested, and they're all kind of noted to be very self-interested as a class of people.
Already approach has been selected as the catalyst, and I think that makes a lot of
that
sense.
works really nicely, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, like with the whole nuclear thing, that they're trying to prevent some rogue nation from having nuclear power.
Right, so this is going to be the solution, right?
No, I would say that's the problem. And then solution is the pursuit, which is being pursued by that Gen 5 thing at the end to give them enough time so Hangman can show up.
So if that's the problem, okay, so now if we go back, and what we will see is that the problem is hinder and help is the solution. So basically he sort of he's motivated to make things difficult, primarily because he's, that's just sort of the way he is. Or when he sees that he is being hindered, I think that's probably certainly in the beginning when it looks like, oh, this program that you're part of, well, we're going to put a kibosh on it because you haven't met the time frame, even though they still had a lot more time to go. He's just like, fine. And then we're going to come and control you, and we're going to shut you down and do this. Okay, fine. I'm going to go off schedule and go uncontrolled, and that's what gets me to take the plane up early. Okay, so let's see.
But the only other time I really feel like he's hindered is when they try to remove him as the teacher.
And what does he do? He then basically goes and flies the course illegally.
Right. But I don't feel like that's a constant in the movie.
Well, what about?
Like anyway, I'm not gonna.
Well, okay.
No, I mean, look at the moment when it's like, okay, they're stuck in the snow and, obviously being hindered from, getting back safely. Tell me if this even applies to that dynamic, but I mean, he goes to steal one of the enemy's planes, right? I don't, anyway. It's interesting that the benchmark of the past for the main character makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that really
memories for him.
and memories for Nicholas
Mhm.
character.
Does understanding make sense as a benchmark for the overall story?
I think it does if you look at it in terms of if you include Iceman in there. Because I think what he's trying to do with that whole Iceman, apart from the fact that he's just sort of this fairy godfather who just keeps on protecting him, he's really, it's about sort of understanding what the problem, trying to get people to understand. Well, let me. I'm not sure. I'm thinking of different scenes and then trying to fit that into the benchmark as to how something. My guess is it's probably starts out as more of a misunderstandings to an understanding, like going from things that are sort of misunderstanding the Top Gun the new Top Gun teacher, and not only fitting into the system, but also also looking at the understanding. I mean, if you don't even want to look at the Top Gun teacher, then you've got the understanding what they're doing with that site. I'm not sure. I'm sort of, it's not as nice a fit.
I think if you look at the beach scene, that is an attempt to get them to understand that they all can't play offense at once.
Oh, actually, yeah. If you look at just the John Hamm character, he's the one who's basically, I don't understand anything you're doing. None of what you're doing makes any sense. You're not following the rules. And slowly, and then basically at the end, you finally see that he understands exactly what he's been doing, how he's gotten the people to where they are, and he's sort of like on board. But I think he's really a really good benchmark as to the way that it's normally done, the understanding of how things are supposed to work versus the way Maverick works, or the new teacher, or whatever you want to call him, in the overall story. And that, I think that's maybe where you probably see that best. So yeah, I think that your interpretation of the beach scene is spot on. And so we've got pursue, avoid, and a pursue. Uncontrolled and control.
We may have said this before, but what's avoid is the overall problem?
Basically it's prevent. They're trying to prevent this what you call it from
Event.
and they're successful in preventing it. I'm not sure that what if we do one thing? I want to undo this. What if we make it pursuit? But that pursuit is the problem? No, it's definitely not a problem.
Wouldn't it be that, I mean, maybe this is semantics, but it feels like the problem isn't that a rogue nation is pursuing uranium enrichment. That's what's motivating us to go after it. And then the solution is we have prevented them from doing it. And then over in the main character,
that switches that switches the symptom and response. I think.
Well, here, but he's motivated to help. He's a test pilot. He's called in to be a teacher when he is not naturally a teacher, but he does it anyway. But it's the same thing, like he doesn't like being controlled, so he responds with doing things like stealing the plane and doing things that are outside of the rules.
And then if the solution is prevent, then that's effectively happens when they blow it up.
Right.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
seems-
but it doesn't, it makes more
I
sense.
thought it was avoid, they want to avoid being killed.
Sorry.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah,
John,
that's
go
it.
ahead.
Well, when they are pursued by, other, high-tech flyers, they have to avoid, I mean, they have to fight back, but mainly they have to avoid getting killed.
Remember, problem, well, okay, I wouldn't go down to the granularity of dogfights.
Right.
That's, I think, purely just logistical. I don't think that's narrative. I don't think that's part of the narrative argument per se. Jim, you were about to say something?
I was just gonna say the arc for Rooster, I mean, avoidance to pursuit, he has all the baggage of everybody trying to prevent him from getting the same fate as his father. And that's where his fear comes in because he doesn't want to repeat the same thing. And then at the end, when he engages and he actually like goes in there and dives in there, that's the pursuit. And actually the two of them letting the Gen 5 thing pursue them at the end is what actually finishes it off so that Hangman has enough time to come in and save the day. Like just for his like change arc makes sense. It's like, no, I can't do it. I'm gonna avoid, I can't engage, I don't engage. And then he finally does at the end.
Right.
He's not like avoiding at the end. He's like, he's in the
No, that's
moment of allowing somebody to pursue him and being the guy in the back who's like checking out the pursuit and feeding that to Mav. It just makes more sense.
But I mean, I think the pursuit for the influence character, I think the pursuit definitely is while he's in the trench, and he's avoid, and then he finally, Dad, talk to me. And
Yeah.
then he puts on the accelerator. And it's like, okay, that's when he does it. And then he continues to do pursuit by shooting when he goes back for Maverick. So yeah. I think in that sense, I think that does. I mean, I do like also the fact that having him be avoidance as his problem, that's as his motivation, that sounds a lot more like him. Trying to, being prevented from doing things just really fries him.
Mm-hmm.
That's been his history. Okay, well, let's look at some of the other stuff. Main character, the problem of hinder. I mean, we've made the argument both ways. I think it's easy, when things are uncontrolled, the way I would interpret that at the beginning, although I'm not sure the beginning is really part of the story form. But if I was, I would just say that, it was very structured. And then this guy comes in and says, oh no, it's all different. We're throwing all of that out. When the Ed Harris characters, announced that he's going to come in, terminate it early because they haven't achieved their goal, which they weren't supposed to achieve their goal yet. And then so the Maverick says, fine, I'll take control and I'll make this happen. That's okay. Where do we see it elsewhere in the story?
The other thing too is his whole thing about you can't think, right? So like Rooster is very controlling and he's very much in the objective story. He's like, oh, I gotta make sure I have all the things in the right spot because I can't get killed. Whereas Mav is much more uncontrolled in his approach as far as like he can't take the time to think about it too much. And so crucial elements, they line up better in those two areas as well. So like
Okay,
Mav
you
would
have
be
a main character unique ability of openness.
Mhm.
Well, I think that, you have Maverick, he pretty much tells everybody exactly what it's like. I was second best. I didn't come in first, and he seems to be very open with what people
I
can
think-
and can't
I think-
do.
I think the openness would be, I train them in a new way. I show them people are going to come from above and below, and I'm going to take you down to the flight deck and that kind of thing. You've got to see this in a new way. You've got to get rid of all of your preconceptions.
Mhm.
Could you speak to the big dilemma Maverick has, that gets highlighted, I think in Act 3, about how he had to prevent Rooster from advancing in flight school to appease his mom's wishes that he not become a pilot, but at the same time having to withstand the animosity that he has to face in doing that. Does that fit in anywhere with hinder, help, and uncontrol and control?
Well, I think you have a little bit of the influence character's memory. Memories of the influence character, in this case, his father and mother, and what they told him to do about their son, Rooster. And I think that might that fit into his critical flaw of self? Well, actually, you've got the past. That's actually, no, I think that's part of his past. That's showing, him dealing with those elements of his own past.
Isn't he seen as disruptive or a hindrance by Rooster and by sort of the relationship he's in with Jennifer Connelly and the daughter, and eventually they just come to embrace that part of him? But
yeah, they basically do.
yeah,
But I think those are elements of his past popping up, and that from his benchmark. I think that's what that is. It's sort of all of that bumbling up over the course of the story. It starts off, it's pretty heavy. Right when the first scene, he opens up his locker, and there's the picture of, all his Rooster, and I think also his parents. Goose and
yeah. But I think throughout, Rooster doesn't want him there because he thinks Maverick's going to put him in the corner, in a sense.
right. Oh yeah.
So he's a hindrance to Rooster throughout the whole movie.
And
Put him on the bench.
I think you say the critical flaw of self-interest is that everybody sees Maverick as just being this guy who was only interested in himself. Does what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and every time he does that, it threatens to sort of undermine whether or not it's going to achieve the overall story. Like he's going to get canned, or he's going to get grounded, or whatnot. But
is that true? His self-interest of getting in the airplane and flying it really fast is what allows them to successfully do it. I mean, it doesn't actually, in the actual weaving of the story, his self-interest doesn't undo it.
no, it doesn't. No, but it threatens to. Remember the scene right after it? He's basically, should just, Iceman's not here anymore. I have every right to demote you and kick you out of this whole thing. Dishonorable discharge, right? So it's definitely seen as a flaw. But it's not, that event was not only just about showing his critical flaw. It also showed in the overall story, in the context of the overall story, however, that approach turned out to be very positive. It showed that we can do it. And so I think that by dividing them into those different through lines, you can see it's negative over here. For you, I see this as being really bad. This behavior is very bad. But when I have to look at it in the context of our problem, that outweighs it, right? So it doesn't, since since it is a success story, the critical flaw does not overpower the unique ability, but it does threaten to undermine it, which is, I think, truly what it does. Even in the beginning, where we don't even know that the story hasn't really started yet, you could see him taking off with this prototype against orders, faking the radio breakup, not stopping at Mach 10, going further, and then destroying this who knows how expensive plane because of his own self-interest. He's the fastest man in the world. It could definitely undermine his career.
The thing I thought was weird about the movie, and maybe it has to do with self-interest, the thing that didn't mesh for me was the moment where they made Maverick team leader, because I would have thought Maverick would have been like, no, I've had my day. But he's like, okay, I'll be team leader. Like he could have made other choices to not be team leader, but then he kind of acts in his own self-interest, which then gets him in trouble, because then well, I don't remember exactly why he got shot down, because he protected Rooster, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure if this line of thinking
Well,
now that I'm saying
no,
it is tracking, but
And
I just
and
kind of saw that as a
Rooster-
weird moment, and maybe that goes back to this self-interest thing.
I don't think so. I don't think that was an illustration of self-interest, because I think
Okay.
that was an overall story moment, not a main character-ish moment.
Yeah, but remember, Rooster goes after him. I mean, Rooster puts his own life in danger to to go after Maverick to save him. We got to, we can't leave him behind, even though they're telling him to come back. So I don't know if you can attribute that to the main character's self-interest, but it certainly echoes out that his self-interest demands that I go in and save the guy that is now my friend. Right. So
Yeah, I would also say he's self-interest is the individual over everybody else. So his critical flaw is, I'm not going to let Rooster be a part of this because he's going to get killed. And I made this promise.
Mhm.
But Rooster's like key to having it happen. So him being open to that and being willing to reevaluate that, if he actually engages, then he can become a part of it.
Right. So this looks like a pretty good story form for it. And I want to save this. And then I want to save a copy of this. Version 2. And I want to go back and let's quickly do the other version. All right. So that we can. Okay, the domains were correct. Those we had agreed upon, but in this case, we had doing was the main character concern, correct?
overall concern, yes.
The overall concern, that's right.
Yep.
Just testing you.
Mhm.
And so, where are we in terms of the themes and or elements? Again, the themes not being strongly explored per se in this film, at least not in the overall story.
So can I approach this a slightly different way?
Sure.
Okay. If you go to the story engine.
Yep.
And I'm just going with sort of the argument that I made earlier, and I just want to see if this is true. Oh, so these things are already selected.
All right.
I was going to have to select requirements of obtaining, which would be destroying the uranium.
Okay.
The forewarnings of the future are like, hey, we're gonna retire you right now. So if the antagonist got his way, which is Ed Harris character and then the John Hamm character, Maverick would have been off to his retirement, and that's the future. That's the forewarning of the future. So I didn't know if any of that was already picked, but it looks like it is. That's cool. And then I was going to stick with the domain, the concerns you'd put in, the doing and the
So it has the benchmarks that you were looking for.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so we said the concern of doing.
And then the benchmarks here too are like, picking the team and that kind of thing. The benchmark in the relationship story is, how is the relationship between these two coming along? And so from here, what I did is I was like, okay, I think this is from this point on, and this is where I'm totally happy to have any discussion, but like, I saw him as, here, let's just go one more place, which is, well, anyway, I saw him as insecurity. He's trying to protect what he has, which is why you have Iceman telling him like, no, you've got to let go. But it's also sort of why he flew the plane in the beginning and that kind of thing, because he's trying to figure out like, this is what I do. So how do I hold on to what I do? And I like that this puts Rooster in confidence, because the whole thing that he doesn't seem to have is confidence. He doesn't want to, he's not confident enough to just do, and that's the thing that he eventually gets. And then I like the unique ability of fact here, which is for the main character, because what he's doing is he's demonstrating, no, indeed, I'm going to demonstrate you can do this run in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. That's a fact, right? And then the critical flaw is he able to teach this skill to other people? We don't know. And then the inhibitor in the overall story of security is when John Hamm makes it 4 minutes. Right, he wants to take this cautious approach to get in, but that slows everything, that pulls them all back. The story slows down it literally slows down for like 10 seconds, because then you have Maverick in the plane. But this is where like it's all, the momentum is all out, right? Of the gas is taken out of the story. So those are the things I like here, and then. And so here, like, I'm totally game to talk about whatever from this point on, but I do have something that I was playing with, but I honestly don't have great arguments for it, which is an overall story issue of skill, and then a problem of trust, because what they needed to do is you need to build a team, and these people don't seem to trust each other. They're vying for stuff. And then
So really do have a Star Wars. You really do have a Star Wars.
I guess I didn't intentionally do that, but yeah. And then over in the main character problem, he's driven by results, right? Which is, can I get this plane over Mach 10? Can you run this thing? I want people to come home. Like that is what he wants, right? He doesn't care about, what he certainly doesn't care about, right, is the demotivator for him is process. That's John Hamm's character going, this is the way we should be doing it. And he wants none of that. That's his demotivator. Um,
Hmm.
I'm unclear on the symptom responses of all these, the effect cause,
Theory hunch.
that I'm not real. And I mean, I can sort of, even with like, down in the relationship, it's like the problem is of accurate. It seems right to me in the way that it's like, the way that they think about each other, right, is are you outside of tolerances? I didn't think the issue of ability, I think, is great. Is were you good enough? Were you not good enough for me to let you in? Can I pick you? If I don't pick him, he's never going to forgive me. But then, of course, what brings them together is they're in the dogfight together, right? They express their abilities together, that kind of thing. So down to the issue level, I feel pretty good about all this, but below that, I haven't really thought about it. So that's how I see this story form.
And Sandy, you were in this camp, right?
Yeah. But I hadn't drilled down to the elements exactly, and so I'm just considering all his arguments. I mean, something I was exploring was putting the main character under fantasy. All right. One of the reasons is because ending and unending, because again, there is that whole issue of let it go. He needs to put the past behind him. So, and that would put, I guess if ending or maybe if unending is the problem, then test is a symptom. That would put the overall story under skill, and then you have cause as the problem and effect as the solution. Does that make sense? And I break down a little bit on cause and effect too, just like Mike. I'm not exactly clear how to use those terms. So let's see. Security is his fantasy. The impact character would be in worth. The relationship. Actually, that would be. Hang on, we still have still cause. Okay, so that would still be. Right, it'd still be in the same quad. Okay, right. Under the overall story, if we went with fantasy for the main character and went with, I guess, test and trust would be the symptom and response. That would be the symptom and response. So it'd still be under skill for the OS, and then that'd still be ability for the relationship. So I'm just working all this out in my head and trying to see if it makes sense. So, anyway, yeah, the one thing, yeah, can we talk about cause and effect? If cause is your problem, let's just hypothesize that cause is the problem and effect is the solution
For which through line?
for the overall story. For the overall story, does that make sense? What would be an illustration for a problem of cause, and therefore the solution of effect? Because if that doesn't work out, then this line of thinking won't work.
I can't think of it in terms of Top Gun. I mean, I can think of it generically.
Yeah.
Fighting for a cause can cause conflict, or think of the different animal rights groups and or groups that are fighting for a cause that are violent, or having focusing too much on what's creating a problem, like constantly looking for what's creating it and not really paying attention to what the effects are. So you're spending all your time like searching for a solution, so like searching for a cure for something when without treating the effects,
Mhm.
And ignoring what the effects are. You just, or it's another cause might be, the global warming and the argument over what's causing global warming.
Mhm.
So the effect solution could be that the training, by training these people well and making them a team, because they were all skilled, right? He says at one point, you've got to make them a team, and that's why they play the football. And the effect of that is that Hangman is okay being number 2 to Rooster, and he comes in and saves the day at the end, right? The effect is that Rooster comes back to save Tom Cruise. That's one way a solution of effect might be seen here.
Yeah, but the
So-
problem is in the overall story, you would think that somehow that, we don't really know what the effect of blowing up this uranium enrichment,
Yeah.
and we kind of abstractly we do, but we just don't see it in the story.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing. I don't think that's the goal. I think the goal is, I think it's a man versus machine argument.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I put the requirement as obtaining. That's the uranium plant.
I see.
And the effect, and then, because my thing is that I feel like what the argument is and what they keep saying, right? It's the pilot, not the plane. It's the pilot, not the plane. And that's what Ed Harris sets up in the beginning. His argument is it's the machine, right? I want all the money from this program because I want to get rid of the machine. And then Tom Cruise is like, yeah, but I can get in this plane and push it to 10.3, right? And then the rest of the thing is, can the pilot do what's required? And they get into older planes, and then they have to figure out how to fly this crazy course and hit 10G and not pass out, right? And that's something they can't do. The effect of all their training is that they can do that. So that's an argument for effect as the solution. We've done all this training.
And that applies to the impact character too, in my version. And whereas the symptom response would be unproven and proven, which I think that's pretty good. And in the relationship, then you have determination and expectation, which kind of feels good for the relationship. So it's a fine line. It's just, it's a fine line between one and the other, and it's just kind of how you want to what values you're a little more biased toward, I think, in terms of what you want to read into the story. So
There's not a lot there. That's the one thing I think.
right, you have to read a lot into it. That's true.
There's just not the
Yeah.
film is pretty lightweight when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the narrative components.
Right.
And they're also, again, I think that they wanted to put a lot of things in there, like the love interest, to try to shoehorn a love interest in to have some narrative impact, but it really
No, the emotional impact. What makes this movie a success is the climactic sequence, and that, I'm sorry, sitting through the dialogue sequences and the characterizations was just torturous. But
because I don't think it's very narratively sound.
Right. But the climactic sequence was exhilarating, and one of the reasons it was exhilarating is because they did establish this relationship between Maverick and Rooster, and the fact that they, came together,
Right.
they became friends. That's a personal triumph on top of the logistical triumph. but it was a personal triumph in that these two guys made up, and that felt really good. And so, that's, that those are all the beats they needed to hit.
Right, and they really built, again, they built that rather lightly. They kind of played it pretty strongly in the first act, and second act, the third act, not so much at all, except the beat when he basically he picks him as his co-pilot, and then the last act is where sort of it gels. So they did set it up, but in many ways, the relationship between Maverick and Penny kind of took away from time that could have been used to further develop Rooster and Maverick.
Yeah. So I think that on the element level, it's slippery because it's just, big, because there's not a lot of resolution there. So it's, it does have a lot to do with your interpretation, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, personally, I can see where this lands. I think the other one landed more solidly for me, but I liked a lot of the arguments that you guys made. Especially, it's interesting. I think your thematic argument was probably way better than what I think was really going on in the movie. It was there. What you're saying is a great interpretation of it. I don't know that was the intent, but that's a really good interpretation of it, especially with the man versus machine.
Yeah.
Well,
I think if the authors are trying to say anything, it is that. I mean, that's
sort of the I need
if
something.
there's a message there.
Yeah, I'm gonna write a message, a fortune cookie message,
Yeah.
and that's it. I don't know that the story form was built around that or built
Or
to
supports it totally. Yeah.
support it, but I do think that was clearly a message component that they did want to include.
Well, someone earlier mentioned the number of screenwriters on this, and there's only 3, but if one of them,
but 2 of them were story. That there were two credits for story and then 3 for writing, and one of them was Christopher McQuarrie. We know he's a good writer.
and Aaron Kruger is also a really good writer, and I'm wondering if what's happening here is so Christopher McQuarrie is he's a Mission Impossible guy. And so he's like, I know how to do action. Right. And Aaron Kruger, I don't know his career so well, but I think from what I know that he's much more sort of like, let's approach a thing and talk about it. And I'm wondering if that's what we're seeing, that Kruger is like, hey, man versus machine. And McQuarrie is like, I can make that into action.
Oh, so basically it's schizophrenic.
Yeah, but because the domains are right. And because what we really want is action, and because the acting is pretty solid, and when you step out of the story form and you see Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly, you're like, I'm good with watching this.
Right.
That like it's good. Like the movie works. There's no doubt about it. But I wonder if it's because the first time I saw it, I'll tell you this, like when it came out in the theaters. When they destroyed the thing, I was like, oh, it's over. And then they had this like extra act, which was them getting out of there. And it felt like an extra act to me.
Yep.
And so that's another place where I look and go, oh, this feels a little schizophrenic.
Yeah.
But you also
like our AI artificial intelligence did the same thing. And it had the 2 authors.
Yeah.
Or Tangle.
Well, it was more striking in AI, but I would posit that that for as far as the writers were concerned, this was a paycheck. Okay, this was not an artistic vision. This was not an individual, voice. The movie was going to get made no matter who wrote it.
I totally disagree with this on so many levels.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I'll tell you why. I disagree with it. Like a paycheck is like taken. Tom Cruise, they filmed the entirety of Live, Die, Repeat. And Tom Cruise said, this isn't good enough to go. There's no arc for the characters. There's no theme. And he made them redo like the 40% of the movie, right?
Very smart move.
Yeah. And that's why I really believe you have him in the beginning is afraid of death, but in the middle, he's afraid of her dying. And then it comes back to him at the end. It's because that was the clever way they fixed it. And Christopher McQuarrie he's not someone who takes these things lightly either. Like he is just an intensely passionate writer to be really good with stuff. And I just don't see Tom Cruise ever needing to take a paycheck. I think he really wants things to be excellent. So I know what you're saying. It's an action movie, but I really think Christopher McQuarrie is totally down with making popcorn movies, but he's going to make the best movie that you make in that genre. That's why I don't think it's just a paycheck.
Okay, I'll grant you that. Yeah.
So. All right.
But I mean, again, you can't argue with success. You can't. You know, like it's number one domestically, number two internationally, and it came at just, you know, it came at a time when COVID, we were just getting over COVID, and people really wanted to go to the theater and watch a popcorn movie. So the timing was perfect, but you know,
But we're not really discussing the success of it. We're trying to figure out the.
right. True. But you know, something worked.
Yeah.
Something obviously worked. Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that we're able to go through the 8 dynamic questions really quickly means they were very clear. You know, and
Mhm.
identify the 4 domains quickly. That's also, I mean, remember how many times have it taken us to, you know, get through that part? You know, long time to get through that part. So you have 9 of the 12 questions answered. You know, for the 12 essential questions for Dramatica right off the top.
Mhm.
And that means we're quibbling with more, you know, more of the specificity. And that's where I think you're going to see, if there are multiple writers that don't have the same vision, it's going to appear and still work. It's going to appear down in the lower levels. It's not going to appear at the top levels, because those will really clash if you see that those aren't working.
You know, by the way, I'm just poking around here with other issues under this setup. And if you put the OS issue to experience and the MC issue to threat,
For
it's
which
just
one?
like
For yours?
Hmm?
For which version?
This one. So if you make the issue experience and then that you make change secure, yeah, that change skill to experience and then issue to threat on the main
The
character.
main character issue of threat. Mhm.
Then you end up with like determination and expectations are as focus and direction for them. And it's like, you know, the problem is we've determined that you're too old, so he's going to exceed expectations. You know,
That would be OS though. That would be over here.
both. It's both.
Right, but that explanation would be a main character one, not an overall story.
Yeah. But in the overall story, then it's like the problem is that it's not tolerable for this country the problem is not accurate. It's not tolerable to have another country get uranium, and the solution is accurate. You know, we can make these old planes do what we need them to do. That kind of thing. Is another way to kind of see that all these themes are in there under these domains.
Well, I think accurate though would be more if in your following your terms, that would be more like, okay, we're bringing it back into with intolerances of this nation state is now back to its with intolerance. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about. That.
Yeah. So. You know, the problem in the relationship is that they're going to push each other and then they come around to trusting each other as the solution.
Oh yeah, these are actually flop domains from Star Wars.
They are?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, you have Luke under activity and you have the OS under situation in Star Wars?
no. Luke.
No,
Luke-
no, no. Luke is in,
Luke is an activity. Yeah, the situation is, yeah, in Star Wars, it's a situation. You basically have an empire and the rebels, and they're basically at this, isn't that right? It's a stand.
No, I think,
No,
No,
it's
it's a doings.
a
It's
doing,
yeah, the-
right. It's a doing story.
yeah, the doing is they want to be rebels, and the concern in the main character is that he's stuck on this planet without progress and that kind of thing.
Right. And unique ability though is for Luke, I think was fact. No, that's Hamlet I'm thinking of. That's different. Bill or something. I don't know.
Luke Skywalker, Hamlet, you know, who could tell the difference?
One of the demos that I do.
both
Yeah.
flopped.
Yeah.
So,
And then this is back. This is
Okay.
the other one we did originally.
Oh. Hmm.
Speaking of the dividends,
Hmm.
requirements or understanding.
it's not on the screen.
Pardon? Oh, is this not showing the right one?
No.
Is it on a different
Oh, it's a
screen
different
share?
one. Oh, sorry. I swapped it out. Oh, shoot. Which one is it? Oh, that one. Is this right? Yeah. So this one, it says the requirements are understanding. Which. How would we, Jim, do you have any idea how that would work in here? The one that you were championing.
Oh,
Yeah, I would just say like requirements for obtaining like just blowing up the thing is like one requirement. Whereas in the understanding requirements, like I said, the volleyball game, appreciating that they're supposed to work together, appreciating what it takes to be able to go through the whole thing to be able to blow up. There's a ton of different requirements there.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, there's in terms of just flying the mission, there's a lot you have to understand. You have to understand that there are other fighter planes that are going to go after you. You have to understand that there are, you know, these missile defense systems installed.
You gotta understand the tolerances of the plane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And your own body when you're doing those, you know, mini G's.
You know, the thing about the forewarnings of the past, I think that's the whole goose thing. You know, including when they right up to the end when he goes, okay, you need to pull out your, you know, need you to pull the levers and eject, and that doesn't work. You know, that's an absolute forewarning of, oops, here's the past repeating itself.
Yeah.
And that's actually pretty strong. And of course, you see them sort of looking at things that maybe Maverick has done in the past as being an indicator of, you know, maybe it's not going to work out because he's gone rogue before. But okay, that works. Thanks for answering very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Anybody, any other topic of this that you want explained or discussed before we move on to next week? Nope. All right. Well, thank you guys. What is the movie next week? Anybody? Nick's not here, so you'd have it like off.
That's right. It's Hamilton, I think, isn't it?
Ooh.
Is
Wow.
it Hamilton? Which I hope everyone has Disney Plus because that's the only place you can see it.
Well, and you can get Disney Plus for a month or whatever, or for a week
Or
something.
for a week or something. Yeah.
You can probably get a DVD from the library.
Oh, at this
Not
point.
in Florida, you can't.
Huh?
Not if you're in Florida.
You can't get anything from the library, right? No, people have said, oh, you might want to mention when you announce it, try putting on the closed captions.
Pedals, yeah.
Yeah.
Although they speak really quickly in it.
Mhm. But just to catch, just so you can catch more of the nuances of the story, you might want to, it's just a suggestion. Put the captions on.
Yeah, that'll help.
But no, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's that would actually be the first time I think we've ever analyzed a stage play. That's just a stage play that hasn't been turned into a movie. Yes, this is a film stage play, but it's still a stage
It's
play.
still a stage play, right?
Right. It's and that's the only reason that's why we can see it, is because it's filmed. But I don't think we've done that before. I mean,
Well, we've had some analyses done, but not as I don't think we've done it as a Dramatica Users Group. No.
right, yeah.
Boy, it is not. I am not finding it at the library.
Again, I think you can go on Disney Plus, and let me just close this.
I
You
mean,
can probably go on.
if you don't have Disney Plus, how are you keeping up with the adventures of Baby Yoda? I mean,
You can also go to Spotify and just listen to the soundtrack, which I think is most of what.
I think it's just the songs, isn't it? Because there is dialogue. It's not all.
No, it doesn't have everything, but it has a lot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't see it at the library.
Let's see, Hamilton
Mm-hmm.
and Scream. So you can get it on Disney Plus, or Apple.
really?
But
Okay.
I think, but Apple, I'm not sure how much they charge for it, but
Well, good to
Disney
know.
Plus, I think this says Apple TV. Let's see. Yeah, you can. Oh wait, it says it's available on Disney. All right. So it's Disney Plus. Is it can you get it on Amazon? No. That's just a cast recording on Prime.
But you're right. The songs, the soundtrack probably is at least 90% of it.
I think that I think that the cast album just is missing like one thing. I think it's just missing like one or two scenes.
Oh.
And they're not really like monumental scenes. So that might be another way to do it too. You'll miss like the facial expressions and stuff, but you'll get you still get the emotional feel from the music.
Right, but the other thing is you lose the kind of like who's who, because it's a lot easier when you see them, all the different characters, because there are quite a few different characters.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, again, I think you can get a temporary subscription for really cheap. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, a lot of the services you can get a week for free.
Yeah.
Chris, you're just gonna have to fly us all out to New York to see it.
Oh, I am. in Anaheim. I haven't seen it in New York. I'd love to have seen it. I haven't seen it here when it came by. We had tickets to go see it originally, and then COVID hit.
Mm, mm.
And
Yeah.
so that went, and of course, we never got our money back either.
Oh,
Yeah. The very first time, it wasn't the first time it came out because those tickets were like $1,500 or something. It was like, no, thank you. It was the
Yeah.
second time around that we then went, oh, finally we can go see it. And then, guess not then. Sorry.
oh, yeah.
I saw the library has a book by him on Hamilton. And there are other things by him on it.
No, it's, you need to see need to see the musical.
Okay, along with this, the singing and so forth.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's essentially, it's a story.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Mhm.
what we want
You sure it's not available on YouTube if you pay?
to, I don't know.
Okay.
I just did a Google and everything basically went back to Apple. I mean, back
Or
to
back to Disney.
back to
Yeah.
Disney.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, I think Disney has kept this one pretty tightly.
Ah, that makes sense.
Hmm. But good for them for sure, for having it.
Yeah, and it's a really well done film version of a play.
Yeah.
They don't really, it's not, I mean, you really still feel like it's a play, you don't feel like it's not a movie, but it's done quite well.
Yeah, I mean the camera's right there on the stage. It's not like the camera's out here and the camera, yeah. I mean they're doing close-ups and cutting from one side to the other. So,
You really do feel like you're kind of sitting in the audience watching it, which is kind of cool the way they filmed it. Yeah.
yeah.
It's quite nice.
Actually, it's 3 separate performances filmed,
Yeah.
cut together as well.
Well, it's amazing how they're doing the same thing over and over.
8 times.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, that's it then.
All right.
Mucho appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Jim.
Good night.
And thank you, Jim, for hosting.
Thanks.
God.
Jim.
Good night.
Take care.
All righty. Good night.
Good night.
Mhm.